So we deeply appreciate you joining in. So what we're going to do now is that, as promised, we're going to have short Q&A questions, because look, we are in a time where there's a lot of questions that parents want to ask. And if it's okay with you, we will just take 2 or 3 questions from any one of the participants. Is there anyone that would like to ask Prof Baron Cohen a question?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, before we start,
yes.
I hope you can hear me, but I just came back from the International Society for Autism.
INSAR, yes. Geez, there's a slight delay. Yes, Prof, we can hear you. We can hear you. And we can see you as well.
Autism research, INSAR, exactly. And it was in Prague, in the Czech Republic. And I'm delighted that next year, yeah.
We can hear you.
Yeah. INSAR 2027 will be in Cape Town, in South Africa.
That's significant.
So I look forward to meeting autism researchers, both early career and also mid and late career.
Now, this is a significant thing, especially when you refer to Africa and the research that's we're doing on the continent, because we desperately needed it. And it's quite a major milestone to have INSAR in South Africa. It's a major thing. So, Prof Baron Cohen, I want to start, and this is the icebreaker. I want to ask you a question. And this question is based not only from an autistic adult's perspective, but as someone who's doing research. And I've written my question down. And the question is when you look at the autism spectrum in general, how do you think the concept of empathy and the double empathy problem applies in the global south, where the cultural, economic and systematic barriers further shape how neurodivergent individuals are understood and supported?
This is a very important question, so thank you. So the first thing to say is that empathy is not a single thing. There are at least 2 aspects of empathy. So
we can hear you, Prof.
The first aspect is called cognitive empathy, which is the ability to recognize what someone else is thinking or feeling. And the second aspect is called affective empathy, which is the emotional response to what someone else is thinking or feeling. Autistic people, the evidence suggests, struggle with the first part, with the recognition part, but they have intact affective empathy. That's to say, they care about other people and they want to help other people, especially when they are in distress. So it's a myth that autistic people lack empathy. It's very important to say that. But Damien Milton gave a very good lecture at Unisa in Prague this year about the double empathy problem. And it's a very important contribution because in essence, he's saying it's not just autistic people have difficulties in understanding non-autistic people, but also that non-autistic people have maybe need to make more effort to try to understand autistic people. And then specifically to your question, in the global south, I think it's actually a global phenomenon that autistic people are underachieving in terms of their potential. Many autistic people, they drop out of high school, they don't find a job, they experience poor mental health. All of these things are a sign of not getting good quality support. And that's true both in high-income countries or low and middle-income countries. So society needs to show more empathy to autistic people because autism is both a disability and a difference. But as a disability, autistic people have a right to support under equality legislation.
Thank you very much, Professor Cohen, Baron Cohen. We really appreciate it. Is there anyone else that would like to ask Professor Cohen, Baron Cohen, a question? Anyone? Professor Claskin Johnson? Would you? Okay, Professor Cohen, Baron Cohen, we will. We've got the mic for you. We've got the mic. So apologies.
Yeah, there's a slight technical issue with the delay, and I hear myself kind of on repeat after I finish speaking, but I hope you've been able to hear me okay.
Yeah, no, we can hear you fine, Professor Baron Cohen. Prof Mary, do you rather want to come? Do you want to come in front? Or... Yeah, so yeah, it's easier for us. Is the mic working?
Yes, thank you. So it's such an honor to interact with you, Professor Baron Cohen. My question is about, the process of developing the autism quotient test. And I work with Emil at Unisa, here at the University of South Africa, and so many people ask us, how will I know if I'm on the spectrum? And I think in the work we do, and a lot of our colleagues might suspect that they could be neurodiverse, but they don't know. And so we often are asked, how will I know if I'm, neurodiverse? Some person has told me that I behave as if I am, and we always refer them to your test. And so thank you for having given us an instrument, because in the global south, including in South Africa, it's incredibly expensive to get a diagnosis, and it's a complex process, and young children are often assessed multiple times. And I just wanted to ask you, the process of developing the 50 questions, could you share a little bit with us? Because it's something that I commonly refer people to. And thank you for giving us an accessible tool that we've been able to refer people who ask that question to. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. No, thank you very much for this question. And it's my honor to interact with you and your colleagues, your community. I just want to say before I answer the question, how pleased I am to see such a strong autism community, both professionals and families and autistic people coming together for this conference in South Africa. So the Autism Spectrum Quotient, or the AQ, we developed it in 2001. So it's 25 years ago. And it was one of the first measures of autistic traits. And what we found is, first of all, we all have autistic traits. Nobody scores 0. Men in the population, on average, have slightly more than women, statistically, which may be interesting in terms of biology. Autistic people show a high score on the AQ, but it's not a diagnostic instrument. It's very important to underline that it's sometimes used as a screening test, but it's not a substitute for a diagnosis. I think what you're flagging up is that in many places, including South Africa, it's difficult to get a diagnosis. You may be shocked that it's not just the global south. Where I live in Cambridge in the UK, the waiting lists for adults seeking a diagnosis are over 5 years, which is unacceptable. And during that time, whilst people are waiting to get a diagnosis, often they do develop poor mental health because they're not getting the support. But, maybe in practical terms, how could the AQ be used? I think if you are wondering, am I autistic? Or if you're thinking about a loved one or a relative, are they autistic? It's a quick screening instrument. And what we always say to people is if you score high, in particular if you score above 32 out of 50, and you've been experiencing challenges that predate taking the test, then it's worth talking to your family doctor about an autism diagnosis. Whilst you're waiting for a full clinical assessment, many people these days simply self-identify. If they feel, after reading about autism on the internet or in books or, and having taken the test, if they feel that the diagnosis is the right fit for them, there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, with self-identity, self-identification of autism. And some people may feel that's actually as far as they need to go, because it helps them understand why they're different to other people. They simply have more autistic traits, and as you said, that's a sign of neurodiversity, that our brains all work differently. But if you not only have a high score, but you're also struggling and need support, then it's okay to tell your teachers at school or at university, or it's okay to tell your employer, look at my score on the AQ. I can't get a diagnosis. I'm waiting for a formal diagnosis. But in the meantime, please make reasonable adjustments or accommodations. And they should do that. I don't think it's realistic to wait for a formal diagnosis for everybody, because autism is now 1 in 30 people in the population. The services just can't cope with the numbers because there's been such an increase in prevalence of autism. So in the meantime, it's okay to self-identify and to talk to various different agencies, social services, health services, educational establishments, to say, and employers, to say, I need extra support.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof Baron Cohen. We've got time for one more question. Anyone else in the crowd? Yes, please come up, ma'am. There's a mic for you.
I've got a bit of a psychology background, so my question is, when are we going to get IQ tests or these kinds of tests for children that are designed for the autistic or neurodivergent brain? Because to me it's unethical that we are using IQ tests and the like designed for neurotypical brains on our neurodivergent brains. My son scored 79, and he is definitely way, way above that highly intelligent, gifted child, young adult now. So, yeah, we need tests like that for our neurodivergent children.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, Prof Cohen, Baron Cohen.
No, thank you for this question. It's really important. So on the question about children, first of all, just looping back to the previous question, there are child versions and adolescent versions of the AQ, the Autism Spectrum Quotient, and we make all of our screening instruments available for free. So you can go to our website, which is autismresearchcenter.com, and you can download the adult AQ, the adolescent AQ, the child AQ, and even one for toddlers. As a parent, if you're worried about your child, your toddler, there's one called the Q-Chat. They all measure autistic traits. But to your point, intelligence testing, or IQ, you're right that many of these tests were developed before we knew much about autism. Perhaps the most widespread IQ test is the Wechsler IQ tests for adults and children. They're standardized for a general population, and they don't take neurodivergence into account. We've known for decades that autistic people often have a spiky profile, that they may score above average on certain subtests. There's one called the block design, which is about attention to detail and pattern recognition, where autistic people may excel, but there may be other subtests where they score below average, either on language or on understanding the world. And, these tests, the risk, I think this is what you're saying, is that they underestimate an autistic person's true intelligence. So to create new autism-friendly, or shall we say autism-fair IQ tests will be a big undertaking. I think it is urgent. We need to do this, but in the meantime, I would recommend that if your child or loved one has an assessment, ask the psychologist to focus on the areas that your child has strengths, and it may be attention, it may be memory, it may be pattern recognition, it may be music or absolute pitch. There might be all kinds of different aspects of intelligence, but don't rely on a general IQ test which may overlook the person's abilities. But thank you for that question.
Thank you very much, Professor Simon Baron Cohen. We really appreciate it. We would have loved to have this conversation and to ask you more questions, but unfortunately, we're running back behind, but it's an honor for us to have you, for you to be giving your time to us, even if it's 10 minutes. We deeply appreciate it. And myself and as an autistic person, I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because you shaped the way for millions of people all over the world, and we really appreciate it. So thank you for giving us your time, and we know you did this in between your classes that you give. So thank you very much, Professor Baron Cohen.